Warnings at Waverly Academy is one of my favorite games of the Nancy Drew series. It's definitely in my top 5. I love the characters, and it's especially great that we have 5 suspects to deal with when the last game only had 1. The puzzles are interesting and the setting is good. I'd like to go to high school here, or really anywhere that gives free cookies all day long. The game stands out as extra good because it came in the middle of a slump for the Nancy Drew series. The 4 games around it are Ransom of the Seven Ships, Trail of the Twister, and the 2 Dossier games. It's arguably the best game they made in a 3-year period, depending on how you feel about Haunting of Castle Malloy. The story is that Nancy is going undercover at an all-girls school named Waverly Academy. She'll be using the fake name Becca Sawyer. I think this is the only game where she goes undercover as someone else. Every other game, she uses her real name and just hopes the culprit doesn't look her up on the internet. Someone calling herself the Black Cat is attacking other students at Waverly. Nancy jokes that a bunch of clique-conscious girls is even scarier than the attacks. She's right, I was terrified of girls in high school. The game starts with a flashback from 2 weeks ago. Danielle Hayes gasps when she gets a threatening note. Next thing you know, Danielle is trapped in the supply closet, screaming to be let out. This is a great opening. It gets across all the information you need to know about the plot. It's scary, and it's great that they put in the extra effort to design a character who only appears in this brief scene. Okay, so Danielle is Rachel's head on Layla's body, but it's still super neat that they included her. The scene is similar to an Edgar Allan Poe story called Cask of Amontillado, which is a nice touch. Nancy arrives and talks to her new roommate, Corinne Myers. Corinne is awkward and unpopular. She tries too hard to get people to like her. She even ends the conversation by asking, "I'm not so bad, right?" Corinne, it's awkward to ask if you're awkward. Corinne gives a lot of exposition here, but it's all fairly interesting. The hall is for valedictorian candidates only. The valedictorian gets a full-ride scholarship to the college of her choice, so the competition is extremely intense. That's why all the girls are here doing a ton of work during a break. The Black Cat always sends 2 notes before attacking someone. There have been 2 victims so far. Megan Vargas was sent home with food poisoning, while Danielle was trapped in the closet. We see one of the notes that Danielle got. The Black Cat notes are spooky and they look good, but I would argue they are too vague to be useful. Danielle's notes were "the Black Cat is watching" and "time's up." So what did she do to make the Black Cat mad? What does the Black Cat want to make her do? You can't figure that out from the threats, which makes them ineffective. "Leave the mansion now" was a much better threat. It's direct and lets you know exactly what the culprit wants. I think Corinne has an okay design, but she's kind of bland. She has the same expression on her face the whole time, and she can't move much because her right hand is glued to her skirt. But at the end of the game, Corinne looks great! She walks around, she has several facial expressions, and her hair looks more detailed. Why couldn't she have looked this good for the entire game? I guess I'm saying Corinne is at her most interesting when she's evil. The rest of the game, she's pretty boring. Nancy's desk has a bag of stuff, a picture of her friends, and a note from Rachel Hubbard. Rachel wants help with a school project. Get used to that. Nancy's going to do a lot of homework in this game. It makes sense that a high school game has a lot of homework puzzles. I wish my high school had puzzles for homework. Maybe that way, kids would actually do their homework. When you leave the room, Nancy runs into Izzy Romero, the student body president. The first thing she does is make a joke about Nancy's red hair. I don't think the joke works because we never see Nancy's hair. It always takes me a moment to figure out what Izzy's talking about when she mentions, "Oh, your head's on fire." Besides, we kind of saw Nancy's hair in the last 2 games. It was more blonde than red. Izzy looks at Nancy suspiciously, then asks for Nancy's phone. She sets it up on the local network. For the entire game, Nancy gets a bunch of anonymous text messages, which are mostly gossipy things, like newbie sighted in Valcan Hall. The text messages are a lot of fun, probably the best use of text messages in any of the Nancy Drew games. Before the game came out, they announced they would be doing things with phone and Twitter. I was worried that it would be a cheap gimmick, which would come across like the "How do you do, fellow kids" meme. But fortunately, that didn't happen. The phone stuff is great. That said, no real high school would make it easy to send mean, anonymous messages to every kid in school. The hallways are easy to navigate, and they're relatively interesting to look at with all the paintings on the walls. That said, I usually rush through the halls without looking at anything. Rachel lives down the hall next to Paige Griffin, the RA. Paige is always angry and hides in her room, and yet whenever you break the rules, Paige decides to leave her room just in time to catch you. She has an amazing sense of timing. Paige's main purpose in the game is to guard the tree in the history classroom, so you have to do those challenges at night. I love how they made up a character just for that. They didn't have to include Paige in the game. They could have blocked off those areas by having Nancy say things like, "I can't do that right now," or "I should wait until I'm alone." That's how earlier games prevented Nancy from doing challenges too early, but this game went the extra mile and included a kind of fun character. It's such a great game, I love it. Rachel's always on her bed using her laptop. I like Rachel's design, especially her headband that matches her skirt. I can't help but feel bad for Rachel because she seems so desperate and lonely. She begs you to take pictures of all the students and upload them to the school website for her web design project. And this is a good challenge to start the game with. It gives players a reason to go everywhere and meet all the characters. Nancy's camera phone is new, and it is so good she keeps it for the rest of the series. I always use it to take pictures of clues and important information. That way I don't have to write stuff down on a separate piece of paper. The phone has a zoom in feature, so you can take pictures of pretty much everything. Also, I find it hilarious that if you take too long to get pictures of the girls, they start complaining at you. I like to start getting Mel's picture. Mel's my favorite character. She's the goth kid who plays cello. I really like the black and pink layout all over her room, which matches her hair. Her voice acting is really good too. All the voice acting in the game is great, but her voice stands out a little bit more than the others because she does an unconcerned goth voice the whole time, and it can't be easy to do that voice. Mel says the gossip hotline claims Becca was kicked out of school in France. Welcome to Waverly. I wonder why Nancy didn't get that text message. Mel says she and Corinne are kinda friends because they're both outcasts, and she thinks the Black Cat stuff is an idiotic prank. Mel gives you the phone number of her poisoned roommate, Megan. Megan's the only person you can call besides for Ned. Bess is listed as Nancy's phone contact, but she never picks up the phone. That bothers me. It's almost like they're teasing players by making it seem Bess and George are in this game when they're not. Megan is an okay character. She talks about the night she went into shock and had to get sent home. That was the same night she got a second threat from the Black Cat. There's no way to narrow down the suspect list since everybody knows about her allergy. There's not much to Megan besides this phone call about her attack. You can call her later on in the game, but she doesn't have new, interesting things to say. I guess the game could have done more with Megan's character, but I think it's fine to have her as an optional phone call. Here's something that tripped me up the last time I played the game. You need to get a photo of Megan, but Nancy doesn't know that. She has to open her inventory and look at Rachel's paper to learn that Megan's photo is required. That doesn't make sense to me, because players see the list of photos when Rachel first gives it to Nancy. Why did Nancy look at every name on the list besides Megan's? After you look at the list, you can ask Megan or Mel for Megan's picture. They both say Leela Yadav has it. Leela always hangs out in the downstairs rec room, playing games instead of doing schoolwork. I respect her for being the only person who's not working during school break. Leela is legitimately nice to Nancy, but not Rachel. She rolls her eyes to hear that Nancy's working with Rachel, and she complains Rachel's a weirdo who's always saying things didn't happen. I never said that. I didn't see you yesterday. The moon landing is a fake. It never occurred. Leela thinks Rachel is the black cat, and her goal is to freak people out into losing the valedictorian race. Rachel's pretty much out of the running because she flunked a test a few weeks ago. Leela seems to think this means the school should immediately kick Rachel out of the Valcan Hall. That would be highly disruptive. And as we'll see later, it's very important for Rachel to live in that particular room by the snack shack. Leela agrees to let you take a picture of her, but she forces you to play 2 games with her before she'll get the picture of Megan. First, she forces you to play air hockey, which is a fun challenge, even if I'm bad at it. Second, she makes you play a darts game called Scram. This is also fun. It's easier than air hockey, but it's a slow game that takes about 4 to 5 minutes to play. During both games, Leela is constantly bragging about her sports skills. Oh yeah, uh-huh. It's really annoying. After you play Leela's games, Nancy takes a picture of Megan's photo. Megan looks kinda cool. She's got short spiky hair and tons of eyeshadow. Again, it's great that they put in the extra effort to design a character who only appears in this brief scene. When you first talk to Leela, she mentions her boyfriend Jacob. Not long after, Nancy gets a text saying Izzy stole Leela's boyfriend. Whoa! Leela is furious her roommate would do something so terrible, but she decides to play it cool before getting revenge. Because she will get revenge. Only she doesn't. Yeah, this story doesn't go anywhere. I wonder if they originally planned to have Leela's revenge in the game, but they had to cut it out. When you get Corinne's picture, she says she tried looking for Nancy online. She probably wanted to add Nancy as a Facebook friend before Nancy learns how unpopular she is. Corinne then tries to gossip about Nancy's boyfriend, but Nancy refuses to say anything. Corinne, seriously, you're getting too close into Nancy's personal life. Corinne thinks Izzy is plain mean, and Leela shouldn't be a valedictorian because she's a jock. And every TV show ever says jocks and smart kids don't mix. When you go to get Rachel's photo, she's clearly confused until Nancy introduces herself. It's like she doesn't remember meeting you 5 minutes ago. It's weird. Yeah, I sometimes forget a person's name after 5 minutes, but I don't stare at them awkwardly until they reintroduce themselves. Rachel excuses her weirdness by saying she's too overworked to think clearly. She's also too busy to think about the black cat, who hasn't sent her any notes. When you get all the photos, use the computer in the library to access the school's website. What's this? The school gave the Wi-Fi password to Izzy? Why would they put the most important thing in school in the hands of the meanest, most petty person? Izzy's here in the library. Like Leela, Izzy is clearly designed to be viewed from the front. She looks like a totally different person when you see her from the side as you approach the desk. Her hair looks short and curly, but when you look at her head-on, it's giant poofy hair, which is trying to avoid touching her huge earrings. Izzy seems to hate everyone in the school. She warns you to avoid Corinne. She thinks Rachel is a weirdo, and Mel is just pretending to be edgy to hide the fact that she'll never fit in. Izzy doesn't care much about stealing Leela's boyfriend. Jacob asked her out and she said yes. What's the big deal? I can guarantee Izzy would not say that if the situation was reversed. Izzy forces Nancy to do a DNA project in exchange for the Wi-Fi password. This puzzle is unpopular because it's so tough. For a while, me solving the DNA puzzle was one of the most watched videos on my channel because of how many people were trying to look up the solution. Izzy's explanation of the puzzle is way too confusing. You have to make sure adenine is always paired with thymine, and cytosine is always paired with guacamole or whatever. The game actually expects you to remember this information? No way! I would improve the puzzle with different instructions. Red always goes with blue, yellow always goes with black, the long sides alternate white and brown. Those are better instructions, it's easier to remember colors. I would put those instructions on the puzzle screen itself. The puzzle screen has a paper which says yellow's adenine, black is thymine, and so on, but that's not helpful because I've already forgotten which one adenine goes with. I would replace that paper with helpful puzzle instructions. That would be how I would improve this puzzle. It's basically a jigsaw puzzle. There's only one way to place all the pieces so nothing overlaps. The tiny pink parts are easy to overlook by accident. Like I said, it's tough, and it usually takes a while to figure out the puzzle solution. The school's website is somewhat disappointing. Most of the links don't go anywhere. I would have simplified the website design. Instead of 5 pages with a ton of broken links, I would have 2 or 3 pages with no broken links. I'd also make it more obvious where you're supposed to go in order to upload the photos for Rachel. You get to the upload page by clicking the valedictorian picture under the academics tab. It would have made more sense to throw an upload button on the home page. The student life page has some nice foreshadowing. There's an article about Casper the Squirrel, a message about a missing Edgar Allan Poe book, and a security blotter that says you can break into any room using a student ID. I'm not sure why the school is deliberately telling students how to bypass security, but it's good to know. There's also Double Take, which is a memory matching game. It's an okay challenge, but I usually skip it. There's really no point unless you want to get credits. You get credits if you get the high score, which seems a little weird to me. Why is the school encouraging students to play memory games instead of doing homework? The homepage of the website says Nancy is the snack shop boss. I like the snack shop challenge. There are lots of Nancy Drew games where you make food. Either this or The Last Train to Blue Moon Canyon is my favorite version of the food challenge. I think I like it so much because it has enough items to make it challenging, but not so many that you're overwhelmed. That's because most of the items are things like chips and water, which don't require preparation. You just grab them and put them on the tray. That's far easier than making 5-step drinks in Haunting of Castle Malloy. I also like how you get to hear random gossip from the students. It's a lot of fun. After doing the snack shop for the first time, you get a key. I still don't know why. It's like someone threw a key at Nancy's head as a thank you for the cookies. After you upload the photos for Rachel, she says you need to sort them. Rachel's a little apologetic for bossing you around so much, but hey, it's not like she has a secret twin sister who can help with all the schoolwork. I like the end of the conversation where Nancy says they'll be friends, and Rachel pauses before saying, right. It's a little detail, but it's a great character moment. Sorting the photos is a logic puzzle, which we've seen in several other games. You need to sort everyone's name, photo, hometown, and favorite subject according to the 9 clues. I think this puzzle is okay. I'm not sure if I like it more or less than the similar puzzle in Nancy Drew Haunting of Castle Malloy. When you're done, Rachel gives you a list of 6 more photos to take. The last one is a rare photo of Rita Hallowell and her black cat, Usher. Nobody's seen the photo for decades. It's pretty unfair of Rachel to give you a near impossible task. It's also a little unfair that Nancy can't get the photo of the map from the history classroom. Paige stops you if you try going inside the room during the daytime. Nancy should be able to explain it's for Rachel's project. She has the paperwork to prove it. You can get 3 pictures right away. They're the tree that's outside, the school entryway, and the emblem on the floor near the entryway. That is the only picture which requires you to use the camera's zoom and pan buttons. Rachel accepts all the other pictures without any zoom. One picture is the school's first academic win trophy. You can solve this puzzle through random guessing. Open up the cabinet and take pictures of all the trophies until you get the right one. That's a cheater solution, but it totally works. You're supposed to do a plagiarism storyline. Nancy gets a text message saying Mel was busted for plagiarizing her art history paper. Nell says she was framed, and the culprit's IP address has no repeating digits. I know Mel has a faulty memory here, so Nancy can have a puzzle to solve, but it's just plain weird that she remembers a 10-digit number like that, while not remembering the culprit's name. Usually I'd remember the name, not a 10-digit number. Nancy has to log on the paper trail in the library, then type in one of the numbers on Mel's paper. This confused me the first time I played the game. There's a whole bunch of numbers on the paper. Mel just made a big deal about finding the right number combination, so I thought the numbers on the paper were the ones she was talking about. But no, those are the numbers to get to the number she was talking about. And it's a little confusing. It's not a big problem, but I do wish the game had players trigger the puzzle with a password instead. That would have avoided the problem. The number puzzle is pretty good. You have 4 columns, each with 5 possible numbers. You have to pick one number from each column, and it's all the more challenging because there are some 1-digit numbers thrown into the mix to fool you. I thought this was a unique challenge, and I wouldn't mind seeing it in another Nancy Drew game. Once you solve the puzzle, you see the culprit is Jacob Price. It's obvious he's guilty of copying Mel. His paper was written the day after hers was turned in. The school owes Mel a serious apology for automatically accusing her without bothering to check anything. Sadly, the plagiarism story doesn't get resolved. Izzy and Leela both accuse each other of being responsible, and that's all we get. Neither of them is the culprit at the end of the game, so I want to know who framed Mel and why. Mel thanks Nancy by giving her an old newspaper article about the school's first academic win trophy. I don't know why Mel thinks Nancy would care, or why that's an appropriate reward for clearing someone of false plagiarism charges, but I won't complain. The entire plagiarism story is optional, and you can avoid it by not reading the text message that says Mel was busted. In general, I prefer the Nancy Drew games where you can do the different stories and puzzles in any order you want. I like the sense of freedom and control that gives. This game falls perfectly into that category. You can start the read a Hallowell Treasure story at any point in the game. The first step is to read the sampler in Mel's room. It says to read more, which is spelled with 2 O's. I imagine some players got stuck on this puzzle. They probably didn't even realize it was a puzzle. When Nancy looks up more in the library catalog, she finds a book by Madeline Moore is in the Special Collections cabinet. Corrine has the key, but she refuses to give it to you unless you do her homework. Corrine is a jerk, and I hate the moment where she says, "I've got the key right here. How bad do you want it?" She's clearly angling to exploit you. How does Nancy fall for this obvious trap? Corrine makes Nancy do an orthographic view puzzle. I'd never heard of orthography before this game, so it was all new to me. It's a 3D puzzle, where you have to show an image from 3 different directions. It's fairly simple, and kind of a neat puzzle, but I'm still mad that Corrine forced the puzzle on me instead of doing her job. Corrine tells Nancy to leave the key in the lock, which sounds irresponsible to me. Now there's nothing to stop Izzy from stealing old books and framing Nancy for it. I'm pretty sure Corrine does not deserve to be this school's assistant librarian. Moore's book talks about the school's founders, with special emphasis on Rita Hallowell, the eccentric English teacher who met Edgar Allan Poe. If you check the outside corner of the building, Nancy notices it's different from the picture that was in the book. This is a puzzle. You want to put the 4 pieces together to fill up the square. The trick is to have the long ends run along the outside. Rotating the pieces is kind of a pain. The controls could definitely be improved, but it's an okay puzzle. The game definitely has a good variety of puzzles. None of the puzzles have been similar to each other so far. The cornerstone opens up to reveal a journal. Casper the Squirrel jumps up, and he steals the token on the journal. That is just as mean as the squirrel in Danger by Design. Why are the squirrels so cruel in this series? The journal was written by Rita Hallowell. Just like in many other Nancy Drew games, she left behind a series of puzzles protecting a fabulous treasure. The journal contains a bunch of clues, some of which are obscure. Your overall goal is to collect all 4 Starburst tokens. Ned calls at this point. He's wondering how it's going. I like you, Ned, but this is not a good time to chat. Nancy should be chasing a squirrel, not talking to the boyfriend she never sees. The orangutan Starburst token is hidden by the Victorian dining puzzle. Rita's book mentions a 9-course meal. There's a display cabinet about it. The display says Leela has the menu, and you guessed it, she forces you to play a game with her before she'll give it to you. Leela should meet Jane from Curse of Blackmore Manor. They can play games together all day long. To open the cabinet, Nancy needs the key. It's in the closet next to the dartboard, but you have to turn on the light before Nancy can see it. This makes more sense than someone throwing a key at Nancy in the snack shop, but it is a little odd this is the only item of the game that's just lying around where anyone can get to it. Since most players have not memorized 1800 silverware etiquette, Nancy needs to get a book about it. The library catalog says Rachel has a dining book. Rachel promises to give it to Nancy if Rachel gets her math notebook from Mel. Mel thinks it's kind of weird that Rachel's avoiding her. The notebook's in the library in the lost and found drawer. The combination is 2651. It's written in Roman numerals, and I'm not sure why. The Roman numeral puzzle feels a little out of place to me. It's not bad, it's just I don't get the point of throwing a minor Roman numerals puzzle in at this particular location. When you give the notebook back to Rachel, she claims she likes Mel. She's not avoiding Mel. But at the same time, Rachel purposely sent Nancy to get photos of everyone else. That's pretty close to avoiding everyone in school. The dining book talks about the 24 pieces of silverware and what foods they are used to eat. There's also a student ID card for Amber Sullivan. Hi, Amber! Match the silverware with the menu. When you click on the 10 correct pieces of silverware in order, you get the token. I thought it was asking too much to make players get 10 correct things in a row. Well, the music puzzle is even harder. It requires you to press 16 keys in a row. Nancy learns she has to do a piano puzzle, either because of the hint in Hallowell's book, or because there are music notes on the lampshades by the piano. Mel checked out a book on music notation. She agrees to give it to you if you get her milk and cookies from the snack shop. I think it's kind of funny how all the other girls want Nancy to do homework, while Mel just wants cookies. I like how Mel winks at Nancy after joking that eating cookies clashes with her goth persona. So Nancy does snack shop, and she gets the book, which explains how to translate alphanumeric notation to piano notes. You have to play 7 low notes before playing the 7 high notes. That gives you the Black Cat Starburst. Around this time, somebody sends a badly photoshopped picture of Izzy and Corrine hanging out together. I think it's pretty obvious Corrine sent the photo to make everyone think she's cool. Corrine even brags about how cool it is that she's friends with the most popular girl in school. Izzy is not amused and says the gal pal photo is fake, fake, fake. Corrine has nothing to say in response to this. Did I mention I love all the text message drama in this game? I really do. In Nancy's room, you can use the alarm on Nancy's phone to switch from day to night. After you find Hallowell's journal, the squirrel appears at Nancy's window in the middle of the night. Nancy goes outside to chase the squirrel. With this puzzle, you want to click the branches that the squirrel touches in the same order the squirrel touches them. There are 3 rounds to the puzzle, and it is pretty tough. Solving the puzzle gets you the gold bug token. Nancy looks down at this point, and she sees a group of people in robes and hoods chanting something. That's creepy and weird. Another weird thing is that you can hear someone scream at night. Paige orders everyone to stay in their rooms and go back to bed. I don't think the scream is ever explained. Who did it and why? When Nancy next visits the oak tree, she finds Mel's barrette. Nancy confronts Mel about the secret group. At first, Mel is defensive, but she soon explains the group is called the Blackwood Society. For generations, they've met near the tree in order to chant about numbers for an hour. Everybody's identity is kept a secret, and the meeting times are picked at random. Honestly, it sounds like a weird group which would not have survived for over 100 years. I'm amazed the girls are that dedicated to it. Not long after, Nancy gets a text telling her the lost Edgar Allan Poe book is in Izzy's room. The text calls Izzy our illustrious president. That phrasing makes me think Mel sent the message. But how did she know Nancy's interested in that book? Use the student ID to break into the room. Izzy's desk has a picture of Jacob, who does not look like the kind of guy who would cause huge girlfriend drama. Izzy has a picture of herself, because of course she has a large picture of herself. She's kind of conceited. Behind it is the key to her trunk. Inside it is a blue cloak, which proves Izzy is the leader of the Blackwood Society. The Edgar Allan Poe book is on the other side of the room, under Leela's sporting equipment. The inside cover has a list of Poe stories, along with the dates they were written. There's a doodle which says who the killer is in Murders in the Rue Morgue. I'm kinda mad at this game for spoiling the identity of the culprit in that story. It'd be like writing Corrine is the black cat on the cover of this game. You're ruining it for everyone. On the other hand, players probably wouldn't know which story is the orangutan story if they didn't get that spoiler. I would have swapped out the orangutan for one of the other Edgar Allan Poe stories, like The Sphinx or The Telltale Heart, or Mask of Red Death. People could easily tell, hey, the mask goes with the mask story, the Sphinx goes with the Sphinx. You don't have to spoil the solution to the first detective story ever written. I'm not sure why Leela had the book. I don't think she knows about the Hallowell Treasure. If you ask Leela about the book earlier, she says Mel probably has it. So was she lying or what? Nancy can ask Izzy about the Blackwood Society. Izzy tells the chant to Nancy, and Mel's right. It is just a bunch of weird numbers. 3 is fine, but 5 is more. Even 19 defeats 4. That's clearly the clue for a puzzle later on. One morning, when Nancy wakes up, she accidentally knocks her phone under her desk. When picking it up, she finds a black cat note and the state of Oklahoma. I have no idea why Danielle hid that state under her desk. It seems like a weird choice to make. I usually skip ahead to night after this, even though it seems silly to sleep all day right after waking up. There's a history classroom near the trophy case. You use the student IDs on the doors to open them. Like I said earlier, you have to do this at night, because if you do it during the day, Paige catches you and complains. I don't know what her issue is. No, students aren't allowed in classrooms. Are you crazy? The pillars inside the history classroom have ravens on them. Hallowell's journal has a diagram of a raven. Click the 4 raven parts in order for a geography puzzle. You need to place 47 states onto the map of the United States. This is a tough challenge because there are so many pieces, and the Northeast has a bunch of tiny states. And all the states are listed in alphabetical order, which does not help, because the states that go near each other are not close to each other in alphabetical order. You also have to work from the outside in. A piece will not go into place unless it's touching the outside border or another state. You have to get the state of Oklahoma in order to fully solve the puzzle. That gives you a Raven Starburst, and it gives you a chance to take a picture of the map for Rachel's project. When Nancy leaves, she sees Rachel sneaking around the hallway. Rachel has a tray of food, and she clearly doesn't want to be seen. Nancy is sure this is more than just a midnight snack run, so she follows Rachel to her room. Rachel's room has a secret passageway! Whoa! Ho! To open it, you have to slide a token all over a star design. You need to reach all 14 stars without touching any star twice. When you solve the puzzle, you learn Rachel's big secret. She has a twin sister named Kim. They've been pretending to be one person for years. I really like this plot twist. It's so cool and unexpected. I do admit there are some problems with the secret twin story, like how they first discovered this secret room and what Kim plans to do once high school is over. I also want to point out that the credits call the character Rachel Kim Hubbard. I think that's a smart way of not spoiling this big plot twist. Kim says the Black Cat found out their secret. She's been forcing them to write and deliver Black Cat notes ever since. The end of game letter has a great picture of Corrine blackmailing the twins, but that doesn't match with what's said here. The twins say they have no idea who the culprit is. She contacts them through anonymous emails. Nancy agrees to help them catch the Black Cat. I like how Nancy plays it cool here and doesn't reveal she's an undercover detective. The twins are so happy they give each other a high five, which is such a great animation. They do it again in the ending. After this, Nancy gets a Black Cat note from the real culprit. I guess Corrine decided to write the note personally instead of using the twins. I wonder what made Corrine so mad at Nancy. Was it not adding her as a friend online? Is Corrine that mad about it? Once Nancy gets all 4 Starburst tokens, she can solve a puzzle in the cellar. By the stairs are a series of planks with 17 Starbursts. They match the 17 stories in the Edgar Allan Poe book. You need to put the tokens in the right spots, with the raven going in the raven, the black cat going in the black cat, and so on. Like the piano puzzle and the upcoming Dupont puzzle, I only solved this puzzle once. Every time I replay the game, I just look up the answer on the internet. It's not that it's a bad puzzle, it's just a lot of work to arrange 17 stories by date. Once the puzzle is solved, Nancy gets some old blueprints and the photo of Rita Hallowell. That's the last photo Rachel needs for her project. Upload it to the computer, and Rachel's project is finally done. Or not. Rachel says she needs an essay from Corrine. She also says she and Kim attend different classes, which is totally cheating. She flunked a test when she was filling in for her sick sister. Nancy says she can tell the twins apart. Kim's hair keeps falling out, so she has to regularly tuck it back into place. That's a nice small detail, and it shows how far the animation in the series has come. They could not have had characters interact with their hair in the earlier games. Nancy asks Corrine for the essay. Corrine forces her to get food from the snack shop first. Then Corrine hands over the flash drive. Nancy gets a second Black Cat note here, and I have no idea how Corrine planted the note at the door when she was inside the room the whole time. Maybe the note was there before Nancy entered and she just didn't notice it. Nancy uploads the essay to the school website. It's about the mysterious circumstances surrounding Edgar Allan Poe's death. So Corrine knows Rita Hallowell was there when Poe died. That makes Corrine look guilty. Corrine looks even more guilty when Nancy returns to the room and finds instructions on how to hack Izzy's computer. Izzy's computer does get hacked. Someone deleted her big term paper, and Izzy panics. Nobody else feels bad for her, and I thought it was kind of weird that Nancy can't tell Izzy who hacked the computer. Nancy found the proof that Corrine did it. She should tell someone about this, right? Corrine's desk also has a note with the word cellar. When Nancy goes there, she finds blueprints by the furnace. Nancy compares them to Hallowell's blueprints, and she sees the levers on the furnace have numbers, which match the Blackwood Society chant. You pull the 6 levers in the proper order. I just now realized this is an orthographic view challenge. The blueprints show the top view of the furnace, but you're looking at it from the front, so the levers are in slightly different places. When you solve the puzzle, the furnace opens up. Nancy crawls through it to a secret room containing a book of unpublished stories by Edgar Allan Poe. Corrine is here. She explains she's been looking for this book all along. Since she's not an awesome detective like Nancy, she found none of Hallowell's clues. She was forced to thoroughly search the building, room by room, hoping to stumble across this secret book by chance. She made up the Black Cat stuff in order to get rid of people so she could search their rooms. Nancy thinks Corrine was also fueled by a subconscious desire to get revenge on everyone for not liking her. I kind of like that explanation a little better. Corrine steals the book and escapes, which triggers the endgame puzzle. I like how it's based on an Edgar Allan Poe story. That is a nice touch. Nancy has to solve the puzzle before she's killed by a swinging pendulum. I don't like the puzzle itself because I can't figure out how to solve it. I'm always forced to guess randomly until I get the solution by accident because I can't figure out what circles to choose. There are 4 circles, you have to select them in the proper order. Each circle has different shapes on it, and the circle in the middle rotates clockwise after every turn. It's a letdown that the final puzzle of the game is essentially a random guessing challenge. It could have been worse, though. It could have been a second, harder version of the DNA puzzle. When you solve the puzzle, the pendulum retracts. Nancy chases after Corinne. Hilariously, Nancy's help is not needed. Mel is mad because Corinne just went into the room through the wall. She refuses to let Corinne leave without an explanation. I like the ending of the game, although I wish it had something to say about each individual character. Instead, most of them are lumped together when Nancy says the competition for valedictorian has heated up. We never find out who becomes valedictorian, which is a definite letdown. Also, the picture of the 4 girls side by side surprises me. From tallest to shortest, they are Leela, Mel, Rachel, and Izzy. That is not how I thought they lined up in height. The ending mostly focuses on Corinne's scheme and the twins. They were initially kicked out of school, but some alumni felt bad for them, so they were let back in. Nancy thinks Hallowell and Poe would have approved of this happy ending, and I don't know. Poe seems like the kind of guy who prefers stories which end with insanity or death. So that's Warnings at Waverly Academy, one of my favorite Nancy Drew games. I think I mostly love it for the drama with the text messages and the characters. That was some good high school drama. The puzzles are decent, and most of the problems I have with the game are minor things. Like, I think Hallowell's journal needs a rewrite. And I think it's hard to see Corinne's assistant librarian plaque. They should have moved it into a more prominent place. But at the end of the day, I say it's a fantastic game, and I love it. I give Nancy Drew number 21, Warnings at Waverly Academy, a 10 out of 10.